The sun was sinking low over the golden fields of Willow Creek, Iowa, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. But what if one simple phone call could turn a helpless victim's nightmare into a storm of unstoppable justice? For 16-year-old Ellie May Thornton, the beauty of that evening was lost in a haze of fear. Her wrists burned, bound tightly with coarse rope against the rough bark of an old oak tree. Loud, cruel, mocking laughter echoed around her as three figures loomed in the fading light. The bullies of Willow Creek High had singled her out again, but this time they'd gone too far. Tied to that tree, alone and humiliated, Ellie May had no idea that one phone call would change everything and bring a storm no one in that small town could have predicted. Hey, if you're new here and love stories of courage and comeback, hit that subscribe button and join the Whisper Fable community. We're just getting started. Ellie May wasn't like the other kids in Willow Creek. She was quiet, almost invisible, with her worn denim overalls and a braid that swung down her back like a rope. Her family's farm, a sprawling patchwork of corn and soybeans, was her world. She'd grown up milking cows before dawn, fixing fences with her dad, and reading dog-eared books under the shade of that same oak tree where she now stood helpless. School was different. At Willow Creek High, her shyness made her a target. Her faded clothes and soft-spoken nature were like a neon sign to kids like Travis Boone, the quarterback with a smirk as sharp as a blade, and his cronies Lila and Cody, who followed him like wolves trailing a pack leader. It started small. Snickers in the hallway. Notes slipped into her locker with words like freak and loser scrawled in jagged ink. Ellie May kept her head down, clutching her books like a shield. But Travis had a knack for cruelty, and that spring he'd set his sights on breaking her. "You think you're better than us, farm girl?" he'd sneered one day in the cafeteria, loud enough for the whole room to hear. Ellie May had flushed red, her eyes glued to the linoleum floor. She didn't think she was better. She didn't think much of herself at all. By the time summer rolled around, the bullying had escalated. Travis and his crew followed her home one day, pelting her with pebbles as she walked the dirt road to her farm. She'd run, her breath hitching, but they were faster, their laughter chasing her like a shadow. That was when they got the idea, the sick, twisted idea that led to the oak tree. It was a Friday evening, the air thick with the scent of cut grass and impending rain. Ellie May had been walking home from the library, her backpack heavy with books, when Travis's pickup truck screeched to a halt beside her. Before she could react, Cody had grabbed her arms and Lila was giggling, pulling a coil of rope from the truck bed. "You're going to learn your place, Ellie May," Travis had said, his eyes glinting with something dark. They dragged her to the oak tree, a half-mile from her family's farmhouse, hidden by a bend in the road. She fought, kicking and twisting, but she was small, and they were strong. The rope bit into her wrists as they tied her to the trunk, her sneakers scraping the dirt. Travis leaned in close, his breath hot against her ear. "Let's see how long it takes for someone to care about you, farm girl." Then they left her there, their laughter fading into the dusk as storm clouds gathered overhead. Ellie May's heart pounded, her chest tight with panic. The ropes were too tight, cutting into her skin. She twisted her wrists, but the knots held firm. The field was silent, except for the rustle of corn stalks and the distant rumble of thunder. She was alone, or so she thought. But hold on. What if this quiet farm girl had a hidden ally, an elite warrior ready to unleash hell on her tormentors? Ellie May had a secret, one she'd kept even from her parents, one that made her more than just the quiet farm girl everyone underestimated. Tucked in her back pocket was a phone, a cheap flip phone she'd saved up for with chore money, and on that phone was a number she'd memorized but never called, a number that belonged to someone who could turn this nightmare into something else entirely. Her fingers, trembling and scraped, fumbled for the phone. It slipped once, twice, but she caught it, her breath hitching as she flipped it open. The screen glowed faintly, a lifeline in the gathering dark. She dialed the number, her heart racing. As it rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a voice answered, low and steady, cutting through the static like a blade through silk. Ellie, what's wrong? It was him, her husband, Caleb Thornton, a man the town of Willow Creek had never met. A man who, at that very moment, was 2,000 miles away in a classified location with his Delta Force unit, trained to handle situations far more dangerous than a small-town bullying stunt. But to Caleb, this wasn't just a stunt. It was personal. Ellie May's voice cracked as she whispered, "Caleb, I need you. They tied me to a tree." She didn't need to say more. Caleb's tone shifted, a steel edge replacing the warmth. "Where are you?" "Exact location now." She told him. "Willow Creek, the oak tree by the old Miller Road, 1/2 mile from the farm. Stay calm, I'm coming. Don't hang up." The line stayed, open. His voice a steady anchor as she heard him barking orders in the background, his team mobilizing with the precision of a well-oiled machine. Ellie May didn't know how he'd get there or how long it would take, but she knew one thing. Caleb Thornton never broke a promise. To understand why Ellie May, a 16-year-old farm girl, had a Delta Force husband, we need to go back 2 years. Ellie wasn't always alone in her quiet world. At 14, she'd met Caleb at a county fair where he was home on leave from the Army. He was 22, broad-shouldered and quiet, with eyes that seemed to see right through her defenses. They'd bonded over a shared love of old country music and the simple joy of watching fireflies at dusk. Caleb wasn't like the boys in Willow Creek. He listened when she spoke, and he didn't laugh at her dreams of seeing the world beyond the farm. Their connection was instant, undeniable, and by the end of that summer, they'd married in a secret ceremony at a tiny chapel just over the state line. Her parents didn't know. No one did. Caleb had shipped out the next day, promising to return when his tour was over. They kept in touch through letters and rare calls, her secret lifeline to a man who made her feel seen. But Caleb wasn't just a soldier. He was Delta Force, part of an elite unit trained for the most dangerous missions on Earth. Ellie May didn't know the details, couldn't know them, given the classified nature of his work. But she knew he was out there, doing things most people couldn't imagine. And now, tied to that tree, she'd called him, not knowing if he was in a desert halfway across the globe or a jungle in some unnamed country. All she knew was that he was her only hope. Back at the oak tree, the first drops of rain began to fall, cold and heavy against Ellie May's face. Her wrists ached, the rope rubbing her skin raw. She clutched the phone, Caleb's voice a steady hum in her ear. "I'm on a transport now, Ellie. ETA 3 hours. You're going to be okay. Just keep talking to me." 3 hours felt like an eternity, but his voice kept her grounded. She told him about the bullies, about Travis's cruelty, about how she'd tried to stay strong but felt like she was breaking. Caleb listened, his silence heavy with restrained fury. "They're going to regret this," he said finally, his voice low and dangerous. "I promise you that." Meanwhile, in Willow Creek, Travis, Lila, and Cody were celebrating their prank at a bonfire near the edge of town. They passed around cans of cheap beer, laughing about how Ellie May was probably crying her. "Eyes out by now. She'll learn to stay in her lane," Travis said, tossing a stick into the fire. Lila giggled, but Cody shifted uncomfortably, glancing at the darkening sky. "You sure we should have left her out there? Storm's coming." Travis waved him off. "She's fine. Probably untied herself already. Let her walk home in the rain." They didn't know that a military transport plane was cutting through the night sky, carrying a man who'd faced down terrorists and warlords without flinching, and who now had a very personal mission. Caleb's team landed at a small airstrip just outside Des Moines, where a black SUV was waiting. He was in civilian clothes, jeans, a flannel shirt, and a baseball cap pulled low. But the 5 men with him were all business, their movements precise and coordinated. They weren't just soldiers. They were Delta Force, trained to operate in the shadows. Caleb briefed them as they sped toward Willow Creek, his voice clipped. "This is personal. My wife's in trouble. We go in, we get her, we send a message. No casualties. But they'll remember this." His team nodded, no questions asked. They trusted Caleb with their lives, and now they were here for Ellie May. Back at the tree, Ellie May was shivering, the rain now a steady downpour. Her phone battery was dying, the screen flickering as Caleb's voice crackled through. "Hang on, Ellie. We're close. 20 minutes. She nodded, though he couldn't see her teeth chattering. The storm was worsening, lightning splitting the sky. She thought of her parents, who'd be worried sick by now, and of Travis, who'd never faced consequences for his cruelty. Anger flickered in her chest, a spark of defiance she hadn't felt before. She wasn't just a victim. She was Caleb Thornton's wife. The SUV's headlights cut through the rain as it roared down Miller Road. Caleb was out before the vehicle stopped, his boots hitting the mud with a splash. He saw her, Ellie May, soaked and trembling, tied to the tree like some forgotten scarecrow. His heart clenched, rage and guilt warring in his chest. He'd been halfway across the world, fighting for strangers, while his wife was suffering here. He ran to her, his knife flashing as he cut the ropes with one swift motion. She collapsed into his arms, her body shaking, but her grip on him fierce. "You came," she whispered. "Always," he said, his voice thick with emotion. But Caleb wasn't done. He helped Ellie May into the SUV, where one of his teammates wrapped, her in a blanket. "Stay here," he told her, his eyes scanning the horizon. "We've got business to finish." Ellie May grabbed his hand, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "Don't hurt them, Caleb. Just make them understand." He nodded, though the fire in his eyes said he'd make sure they never forgot this night. Caleb and his team tracked down Travis, Lila, and Cody at the bonfire. The rain had driven most of the partygoers away, but the 3 bullies were still there, oblivious to the storm about to descend on them. Caleb stepped into the firelight, his silhouette imposing against the flickering flames. Travis looked up, his smirk faltering as he saw the 6 men behind Caleb, their faces unreadable. "Who the hell are you?" Travis demanded, standing up. Caleb didn't answer. Instead, he stepped forward, his presence alone enough to make Cody take a step back. "You tied my wife to a tree," Caleb said, his voice calm but laced with menace. Travis laughed, nervous now. "Ellie May, that loser's your wife? You're joking." Caleb didn't smile. He didn't need to. His team fanned out, surrounding the bonfire, their movements silent and precise. Lila's eyes widened, and Cody looked like he wanted to run. "Here's how this works," Caleb said. "You're going to apologize to Ellie May. You're going to mean it, and you're never going to speak to her again. If you do, I'll know and I'll be back." Travis tried to play tough, puffing out his chest. "You don't scare me, man." Caleb tilted his head, and in one fluid motion, he disarmed Travis of the beer can he was holding, twisting his arm just enough to make him wince. "You should be scared," Caleb said softly. "You have no idea who I am." He released Travis, who stumbled back, his bravado gone. Lila was crying now, and Cody was muttering apologies, his voice shaking. Caleb's team didn't say a word. They didn't need to. Their presence was enough. The next day, Willow Creek was buzzing. Travis, Lila, and Cody showed up at Ellie May's farmhouse, their faces pale and their apologies stilted but sincere. Caleb stood behind Ellie May, his arms crossed, his eyes never leaving the 3 teenagers. The town didn't know the full story, only that Ellie May's mysterious husband had shown up and the bullies had backed down fast. Rumors spread like wildfire. He was a soldier, a mercenary, a ghost. Ellie May didn't care. She had Caleb, and for The first time she felt untouchable. The weeks that followed were a turning point. Caleb took leave to stay with Ellie May, helping her parents on the farm and teaching her how to stand up for herself. He showed her basic self-defense, his hands gentle but firm as he guided her through the moves. "You're stronger than you know," he told her one evening as they sat under the oak tree, now a symbol of her resilience. Ellie May smiled, her quiet strength growing with every day. She started speaking up at school, her voice steady, her head held high. The bullies kept their distance, and the town began to see her differently. Not as the quiet farm girl, but as someone who'd faced down darkness and come out stronger. Caleb eventually had to return to his unit, but he left Ellie May with a promise. "I'm always one call away." She kept his number close, but she didn't need it as often now. She'd found her own strength, forged in the fire of that rainy night. The oak tree still stood, its bark scarred but its branches reaching for the sky, just like Ellie May. And so, Willow Creek learned a lesson it would never forget. Never underestimate the quiet ones. They might just have a Delta Force husband and a fire in their heart that no bully can extinguish. Hey, thanks for sticking with Ellie May's story all the way to the end on Whisper Fable. It's a reminder that courage can come from the most unexpected places. Now, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching this video from? Drop your city or state in the comments below, and let's see how far these stories have reached.